Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. It's Cara K, or you can find me at caradk.com. That's CHARADK.com. Today is very exciting because I have finally finished my most requested pattern, and that is the Octagon Pants, but for adults. Now, this is by far my most requested pattern, and I worked really hard on it. So if you do decide to make it, please tag me, let me know. Because it's summer and it is really hot here in Istanbul, I decided to make shorts instead. And I think that they turned out super cute. They're very comfortable. Now, what I want to start off with is just the basics. So all you're going to do when you make these pants is I'm going to give you the base, which is the crotch area. And it's essentially going to be a long octagon. And all you're going to do, it's very simple. All you are going to do is you're going to work around until you reach a desired length. For example, if you're making shorts, the first length you will reach is the length. The first desired measurement will be the length. And then you're only going to work these three sides on one side of the pants. You turn it around, do the other side. If you're making full length pants, it's going to be the exact same pattern, but you might reach the height that you want before you reach the width. And in that case, you would just be working the sides and the leg parts. Does that make sense? So wherever you want, you're just going to keep building on according to what you're looking for. Now, the other thing that I want to explain is that crochet pants are a little bit difficult because you have to make them big enough to cross your thighs and your bum, but then a lot of times they are ginormous on your waist. So you might not think that the dimension between your thigh, your hip area, and your waist is that much different, but you'll see a huge difference. So we're not going to be doing much of decreasing, and that is so that the width you're going for needs to go over your thighs, right? It needs to pass over. And that's why I did this waistband. This is a more structured waistband because I folded it over and sewed it in on the inside so that this drawstring is completely inside of it. And it just gives you a much stronger, much more structured waistband so that when you wear it, it's not stretched out or anything like that. So without further ado, let's make the Octagon Pants. To start off with, we're going to need to chain a multiple of 3 to reach about 8.5 centimeters. This is to form the crotch gusset. Now I have about 18 stitches here, and 8.5 centimeters is about the standard. After you have your length, you're going to chain 2 and do a double crochet into the third chain from the hook. So that chain 2 is going to act as your first double crochet. Then chain 1 and do 2 more double crochets into the same space. After that, you're going to chain another 1 and repeat. Do 2 more double crochets into that same space again. Right now, we're forming the corners of our octagon. And chain 1 again. Now we're going to be forming the length. So you're going to skip 2 and do a cluster of 3, just like a typical granny stitch, into the third space. So I have 1, 2, 3 double crochets. And we're going to skip 2 again and do another 3 double crochets. Now we don't chain one between these because they're not our corners. So I have my third double crochet, and you're going to keep doing that until you reach the end. So skip 2, 3 double crochets, skip 2, 3 double crochets into the same chain space to form your granny cluster. And that's why it's important that we have multiples of 3 in our foundation chain. When you have 3 chains left, you're going to chain 1 because we're forming the other corners. And we're going to do 2 double crochets into that last stitch, chain 1, 2 more double crochets into the same stitch, chain 1 again, another 2 double crochets into the same stitch, chain 1 again, and we have 3 corners right now. We're making the 4th. So once you do that, you're going to complete the 3 double crochets, the granny clusters, into the same spaces that you did before so they match up. So I just used the other side of the loop, and now I'm going to do 3 double crochets into that same space so that it matches up with the other side. And just remember that you don't chain 1 between these. You just complete it like a normal granny cluster stitch all the way to the end. Now that we've reached the end, just remember to chain 1 here, because that's going to complete the final corner, and then you will slip stitch into the top of your original chain 2. So now on each side we have 4 corners. I like to slip stitch into the next space and chain 2, work another double crochet, chain 1, and work another 2 double crochets. So in each of the chain 1 spaces, you're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets to form the corners. So into the next chain 1 space, we're going to do 2 double crochets. Sorry you can't see it. Chain 1 and 2 double crochets. I'll come back into frame in a second. I'm so sorry. Right, and then we have another chain space here. So we're going to do the same thing and 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, so that you have 4 corners. And just remember that you only chain 1 when you're making the corner, so in the chain spaces. Other than that, we do not chain between the clusters. Just like that. And from here, you're going to do your granny clusters as normal with 3 double crochets in between each cluster of 3, all the way until you reach the other side. And remember to do the same process with the corners on the end that I showed you over here, with 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the chain spaces. Now we've arrived at the last chain space, so we have to create a corner here. So just be aware of your chain spaces on the end. They will become more obvious after a couple of rounds. So we have to do 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. And now we're going to slip stitch into the top of that original chain 2. And again, I like to slip stitch into the next chain space so that I can start my next corner. And as you can see, it looks like a very long or wide octagon. So we're going to repeat the process and chain 2, counting as our first double crochet, make another double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, 1, 2. Now here we have a space in between, but this is not a chain space, so we just do a regular granny stitch cluster. So that will be 3 double crochets in this space because it is not a corner. And again, this will become more obvious as we make our way around. So 3 double crochets, no chain. We're going to go into the corner in a second. We're going to go into the corner again, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. From here on, you're just going to be working your way around and around in the same fashion. So as I've showed you, you do the double crochets, chain 1 double crochets in the corners. So here I'm doing my last corner. Once you slip stitch to complete the round, you can slip stitch into the corner and chain 1, and then just start working your way around again. And just remember that each time you're going to have more granny cluster stitches. So this time we're going to have 2 granny cluster stitches on the corners or on the edges, between the corners, sorry. And now we're going to keep working around and around and around. Now, once you get to about 8 rounds, you should notice that whenever you flip your pants together, that it forms a pants shape. So that means you're doing it correctly. And also, as I mentioned, if you want to do shorts, you will probably reach the length that you want before you reach the width or the height. So I've reached the length that I want, and from here on out, I'm only going to be working the 3 sides on the front panel of my pants. Now, I'm going to show you how I do that. So I'll work it as normal, but once I get to the 3rd side, once I finish the 3rd side, I'm going to turn my work and work my way back around. Now, to do that, we're going to chain 2 right in the corner and only do half of the corner. So that chain 2 starts with the first double crochet and do another double crochet. Now half of the corner is formed, and we will complete the row as normal. So just remember that whichever length you reach first, for example, if you reach the height first, if you reach the width you want first, that's where you're going to be building on. And it's really all up to you. So I've gotten to this corner. I'm just going to show you how I finish it. So again, I'm only going to do half of the corner instead of completing it. So I do 2 double crochets, and then I chain 2 and turn my work and complete the row as normal. So it's not that complicated. You're just going to be building on where you want to increase the length, the width, or the height. And you keep going until you reach the size that you want in one of those areas. Now, I've reached the point where I have the height and the width that I want. So I worked about 22 rows, I think. Now this is only for my front panel. The back panel I may do larger so that they aren't cheeky. But once I completed my last row, instead of casting off, all I did was do some single crochets along the bottom all the way to the other side. And for the back panel, I'm going to continue in the exact same way that I did the front panel, except, like I said, I'll probably make it a little bit bigger, like the height a little bit higher so that they're not cheeky and they cover my bum properly. And that is about it. All right, so now we're at the part where I'm going to show you how to sew the panels together, the front and back of the pants. Now you can use the version that I showed you in the original Octagon Pants video, the no sew seamless version, but I actually really like how these turned out. This is also a no sew version, but it's a slip stitch on the inside. So I don't know, I actually really like this look. It's a little bit more defined. Now, you can sew them together however you like. These are just my no-sew versions. And in the next part of the video, if you decided to make shorts, if you didn't, you can skip this part. But if you decided to make shorts and the back of your pants are longer than the front, you might wonder how to sew them together because you're not going to have the same amount of stitches. So in this next part, I will show you how I did this. So if you didn't want cheeky bottoms, you may have made the back panel a little bit longer than the front panel so that it still covers your bum. But when you go to sew it, you can notice the obvious difference in length. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a row of single crochets on the back panel, and we're going to decrease. Now, if you don't know how to decrease, let me show you real quick. Basically, my shorter side has 49 stitches, and my bigger side has 58. So I want the bigger side to be 49 stitches. So I subtract, and I need to decrease by 9. Then you take the bigger side and divide it by this number, which is 6.5, but I rounded it down to 6 because you can't decrease, but 6.5. Then you're going to subtract 2, and the result here is how many stitches for every decrease. So every 4 stitches I'm going to decrease by 1, and I should end up with 49 stitches on this longer side. Now that we have the amount we want to decrease by and how many stitches we need per decrease, I'm going to show you how I do that. And if you hear any noise in the background, I'm sorry. It is impossible to get a quiet video in Istanbul. It's just crazy noisy. So I already did 4 single crochets, and now I'm going to show you how I decrease. So we're going to do an invisible decrease and go between these 2 stitches. Then you're going to pull through, but you're not going to finish it yet, because first you need to go into the next stitch through both loops as normal, pull through, and then we're going to pull through all through 3 loops on our hook. Now we will single crochet 4 more, 2, 3, oops, this yarn is really splitty, 4, and now we will decrease again, just like I showed you. So we're going to go through the middle of this one, pull through the next one, and pull through all through 3, oh my goodness, loops on the hook. And once you get to the end, you should have the same amount as your smaller side, and you can sew them together with a slip stitch. And I'll show you, I already did this side. So once I did my decrease, I slip stitched them together on the inside of the pant so that I didn't have to sew them. For the band, we're going to do some regular crochet ribbing at double the height that you want, and we're going to do it right into the front loops only, leaving the back loops so that we can fold the band over and put an I-cord inside to make a sturdier band and drawstring. At this point, we're going to want to take our I-cord and put it in the band because we're going to be folding the band over. So what I did is I found the middle part, which is about right here, and then I decided where I want the I-cord to come out. So I counted over 1.5, and that would be about here and here. And then because I'm folding this in half, it was 18 stitches tall, so 1/2 would be 9 stitches, and I put it in after the 4th stitch up. So I'm going to pull this through and lay it inside and fold this over so we can sew. Now when you go to sew this in, all you're going to do, you can see I started here, you're going to align each row with the corresponding loop. So all I do is I try to make sure, so this one I put over here. Now I'm going to go in like this and try to just make sure that you have a secure place. Pull through, and then the corresponding loop is going to be right here. And this is that back loop that we left earlier. I go through both of these so you can see just through here, just to give it a little bit extra of an anchoring. And you're going to do that all the way around. I think these turned out really cute. They're super comfy, super versatile. You can do, make them any color that you like. And maybe in wintertime I'll make a pants version. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.